Hey legends, welcome or welcome back to my channel. There's a few new people here since I've taken like a 3-week break, I think, from posting videos. So welcome. I'm surprised by that many people subscribing in that time. I'm your coach Cerise and I help you get out of your own way so you can manifest your version of an awesome fucking life. There's a bit of a change to my intro because things will be changing a little bit on this channel. I still teach the same thing. As my experience and my practice evolves, that's what I will share with all of you. I will say as well, I think the camera quality of using this laptop compared to the one that I would normally use is even worse quality. So, just a reminder to like, share, comment, and subscribe. If anything on this video lands, when I get to 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to get myself a new mic and a new camera. Woo! I could use my phone. People have said, why don't you just use your phone? Because of the way I would need to record with it being in landscape and the camera being on the side, it would just be too distracting for me to be like remembering to look to the side. So we're just going to rock with what we have for now. But again, welcome. And in today's video, I want to talk really briefly. This should be a quick one, although I do say that in all the videos and I go off on my tangents. It should be a really quick one, but it's something that I kind of realized with myself, getting myself into a really good place with particularly integrating in my cheat codes that I talk about all the time. So I'll mention what those are a little bit later in the video for those who are new to my content, but also that lined up with something that one of my regular email clients said recently. She checks in usually every few months and just, obviously gets the usual guidance, but also, there can be moments where we get to a certain point in our practice that we've never been before and we're like, this feels different. Like, is this right? And so she checks in with me with some of those things as well. And that particular thing that we were both kind of, I've experienced it a few times, but more so recently with one particular thing that has been happening in my life where life has just been lifing, which is why I've kind of taken a little bit of a break from doing videos compared to like me in my mid-20s, how the same thing happened then and how I have kind of felt around that and thought around that and reacted or, not reacted to things the way I would have. So what this client asked me recently in our coaching email back and forth was that she was going through something that she would normally feel very anxious and frustrated and heightened about in general. And she felt very cool, calm, collected about it. And she almost felt like she should be panicking because she's not used to feeling so calm in a situation like that. So, like I said to her, I totally relate. I've been through something like that recently, and you're in a good place. Like, don't panic. Don't convince yourself that you should be panicking or operating from fear. You are where you're supposed to be as a conscious manifester. So that's something that I really just wanted to briefly touch on in this video. If you're finding that you're at a point in your practice, and this will come a lot more easily, again, when you incorporate in the cheat codes, so nervous system regulation work, self-concept work, but not just I am affirmations, also treating yourself how you want to be treated, as well as doing feel-good things that you enjoy that are unrelated to your manifestation. When you do those things, you'll get to this point so much more easily. And I know some of you, if you're new to law of assumption, you might fight me on this, but trust me, so many of my clients did the same thing. And when they got to some of them had to learn the hard way and some of them just thought, you know what, it's either I try the cheat codes or I give up because like, I'm just a bit over it at this point. But some also got to the point that I got to, which was about the physical and mental unwellness from just focusing on the thoughts piece. If you incorporate these things in now, and always better to do it before you risk getting to those states that I mentioned, right? Burnout, horrible, physical and mental unwellness. As I like to say in a lot of my videos, go back to my older videos, you'll see my skin was awful. Like, it's not 100% now, but it's like back to the way it was, but it's so much better. It just got so bad that I had like rashes all over my face that looked like acne, but were itchy and burny. Rashes around my neck. I reacted to grass on the back of my legs once one day when I went to touch that I've never reacted to grass before. It came up in like big hive kind of welts. My lips blew up, like a bunch of things. And then in addition to that, the burnout. And then what came after that was the mental health issues. My self-concept got worse than prior to discovering the law of assumption. And then like all these physical things started happening. So you might want to fight me on this because when you first came to law of assumption or conscious manifestation, if you are new to this, you might find that you're still in the phase where like flipping your thoughts initially does make you feel better and you feel like you've come across this thing that makes you have more control over your life. And that can be a bit empowering, but you can't think your way out of traumas, hardships, heartbreaks, things like that. So, and I also want to say that I never used to think I had any trauma because I wasn't the kind of person who talked about it and where that was my whole identity, like a lot of people that I was around. And so therefore I thought that I was dealing really well with anything that may have, been that for me, or that I didn't have the trauma, or I was very good at pretending outwardly that I was fine when internally my anxiety was out of whack, like was completely all over the place. I didn't even know that I had anxiety, which can honestly say to you right now, I do not. But I did have anxiety and I was an anxious person, and I didn't realize that because I thought my the way that I was acting outwardly meant that I wasn't anxious until we had someone come to my workplace and talk about anxiety and depression. And I ticked all the boxes for anxiety. And I was like, oh. So yeah, I would definitely say, even if you're new to this and you find that just working on the thought piece, like a lot of other coaches who teach law of assumption or, manifestation, if they solely talk about the thoughts piece, that can make you feel better in the beginning, like it did for me. But eventually I got to a point where I so gradually got more and more anxious over time that I didn't realize how bad it was getting until I was completely burnt out. And over that time, I was experiencing all these physical symptoms, but I was kind of in denial about why they were coming up. So there's that tangent that you so missed, didn't you, over the last few weeks? When you do the cheat codes, particularly nervous system regulation, but they all work together synergistically, and please trust me that they sound like you're doing more things, but they're actually going to make the thoughts piece so much less labor intensive. You will not need to flip as many thoughts. You will naturally find you're able to let go of the things that are showing up in your physical world that seemingly look like they're not part of your manifestation and would normally trigger you, blah, 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 blah. But the nervous system regulation work, in particular for this example that I'm giving, it has an accumulative effect. It should not be used only when you're struggling. If you do it now, you will not get triggered as much, and less triggered over time from the same things that would have triggered you in the past. And this is a really good thing to just program your body with before you get triggered and before you get your manifestation, so that when your manifestation comes in, you don't self-sabotage because your nervous system remembers something about that reminds you of a time where you couldn't have that thing, personal situation, or couldn't hold on to that thing, personal situation, and then you do all these things from a place of fear, right? When you have a cool, calm, collected baseline nervous system, which doesn't mean that you never feel anxious, it doesn't mean that you never feel excited, right? You'll still have some ups and downs, but they'll be a lot more shallow. They won't be these big, really knock us for six and create all that impulsive or reclusive, isolating behavior that we can do. For me, isolating was a big one. And you will find that you'll get to the point that this client and myself have gotten to. You often won't notice how far you've come until something the same comes up as in the past that you reacted to, or that led to self-sabotage, or something not going the way you wanted, to be able to compare. And that's where my client and I both came to. It's like I knew for a long time that I was in a much better place than I was in the past, that I was at a cool, calm, collected baseline, and that I was less reactive in general and less triggered in general. And then something happened recently, which is the life is lifing thing that I mentioned, that came up, and I felt very at peace with it immediately. Then the shock of I wasn't expecting that news though, even though I feel very at peace with it. And then I was totally fine, and everyone was kind of going like, how's that situation going? And I was like, I feel fine about it. I feel at peace. I feel very calm. I'm not panicking. Because I'm at that cool, calm, collected place, I've been receiving inspired action that is helping me through that situation. I know I'm being vague, and I will talk about it in an upcoming video when things are a bit more concrete in the physical world. But as Neville and other manifestation teachers say, when you're in the process, don't mention it until it's come about in the physical world. But yeah, like me in the past, I would have either been too stressed to even consider looking at it, even if the inspired action came up, or I wouldn't have recognized the inspired action because I would have been too stressed. Because it is something that I found out can be helpful, that I had been told, and it was the case in the past that I wasn't able to have access to that thing before. So, I may have just gone oh no, I was told once that I didn't have access to that, so I'm not even going to bother checking because I don't. And I checked and I do, and it's going to be very helpful, right? But also I just haven't gotten to the point where I'm panicking. And yeah, I know myself, even like this time last year, if this had been happening, I would have been a fucking mess. I've come a long way. But yeah, me compared to when this exact kind of event happened in the past, I was sick to my stomach with anxiety. I was stressed. I was obviously not thinking in line with things working out the best way for me. It really affected my self-esteem, and all of those things like have not been the case this time. With my client, her situation was different to the one that I'm experiencing at the moment. Hers is SP related, and she said that, yeah, like usually she'd be very anxious about kind of what's showing up in the physical world at the moment, but she feels very indifferent, very neutral to it. And she was worried that maybe she should be panicking. And I was like, no, do not convince yourself that you should be panicking. You don't need to panic. You're all good. Keep going. You're in the best possible kind of state to be receiving inspired action and being able to trust that it is real. And also, you're in a place where you, if you do feel anything's off, you will know to follow that and not ignore it. Because, right, there's really what shits me about a lot of other, particularly law of assumption teachers, is that, you know, there's a lot of like almost indirectly telling you to ignore how you feel, which, like, because it's not your feelings that manifest, and it's not. Your belief systems are what is steering you. But you have feelings for a reason, which I've done a video on. I will put it as one of the video to watch after this one in the end card. Like the functions of your feelings is what that kind of talks about. But when you're in a heightened state, when your nervous system's out of whack, which for a lot of people it is just living in the modern world, because we are not meant to live lives that are as go, go, go as they are, or have notifications going off all the time, or as much access to information as we do, as easily as we have it, right? Those things are often very triggering, just hearing things going off all the time, or being able to check things from a place of fear to see something that you don't want to see that triggers you and then sends you off on a spiral and all these things. So often it's difficult to be able to tell in those moments what is perceived fear and what is true fear. And true fear is there for a reason. True fear is there to help us survive as a species, to keep you safe. And if you're being told to ignore how you feel, you could be allowing yourself to be in potentially dangerous situations. And I think it's incredibly irresponsible for coaches to tell you essentially that it's all your mind when it's not, because that's going to, you can't think your way out of anxiety. You can't think, like, maybe here and there when it's not something you have an emotional attachment to, or it's something that you don't have a direct trauma or hardship or heartbreak linked to. But when it comes to those things, you can't just think your way out of them, and you will end up with worse self-concept and worse mental health and worse physical state if you just try to think yourself out of those things without addressing the nervous system. But also, when your nervous system's out of whack and you're always anxious, you're not going to feel that anxiety or that just gut feeling that comes up to keep you safe when you're always in a state of fight or flight, a state of survival mode, because your brain and your body do not know the difference between perceived fear, true fear, that like threats to your survival. So it treats emotional and mental pain in the same way as it would you burning yourself on a fire or you escaping something trying to eat you, for example, right? We're still very primal. We have not evolved as quickly as technology and civilization. So we're still operating as if we are living in the middle of like, you know, just fields of fucking trees and grass and shit, and having like tigers and lions and bears around, right? To simplify things. So the nervous system regulation work is really about reprogramming the memories that are stored as feelings so that you can like convince your mind that it's safe for you to have the things you want, first of all, in terms of your manifestation, but so you can also differentiate the difference between true fear and perceived fear. And I don't want you to be putting yourself in dangerous situations because you are ignoring the way you feel and you're not addressing your nervous system, so you can actually tell when that gut feeling comes up that it's because you need to remove yourself from the situation. There was a story that I heard on like a documentary kind of series that I watched a while ago, and there was a story about a guy who had gone into like a servo, or like a gas station. Servo is what we call gas stations in Australia. And he decided to leave before getting what he went in there for, and drove off, and found out later that the I think the cashier or someone ended up getting shot. I can't remember if they passed or not, but someone ended up getting like either hurt or passed away because someone was in there with a gun. And that person was there when he went into the store. And someone asked him after the fact, like, why did you like leave when you did and not get the thing that you went in for? And he said that he didn't know in the moment, but when he looks back, he can sort of remember seeing someone on a really hot day wearing like a really thick winter coat. And he just like that must have just been weird for him. And he just thought, nah, something's off. And he left. And that was all on a subconscious level. It wasn't until he looked back where he was like, yeah, I mean, I guess that I looked at that and I thought that was weird, but I wasn't conscious of what I was thinking. And that steered him away, right? If your nervous system's out of whack, if his nervous system had been out of whack, he may have looked at that and ignored it, thought maybe it's weird, but just kept doing what he's doing. And he may have ended up in the same position as the person who was either hurt or is no longer here. So I just really wanted to make that point. This video has gone on longer than I expected and gone off onto some tangents, but it's important information. That's why I honor the tangents as they come to me. So please do not ignore your nervous system regulation work. If you really want to get into the state of already having the thing you want as easily, efficiently, and enjoyably as possible, the cheat codes do that. And every day and every time I talk to a new client or the same, my regular clients, there's more and more things that I realize these cheat codes do. I learned the hard way so that you don't have to. I learned the hard way so that you can do these things preemptively and avoid getting to the place that I got to. But also if you have found that you're at that burnout stage or physical and mental unwellness, you can pull yourself out of that using these like I did and never get to that point again. When you do these, you will automatically find it easier to say no to things that don't feel good. You will automatically be less reactive, less triggered. You will find that you just don't spiral as much. You naturally think more in line with your manifestation. You're able to let go of the things that are showing up in the physical world that are seemingly against your manifestation and stay on top of your thoughts and just have that knowing. And living in the end is so much easier. Like they honestly just address so many more things. And these are things that I could teach individually, right? That they fix. I could teach you all those little things that they fix individually. But if you just do the cheat codes, you don't need to overwhelm yourself with information. You can just know that doing these things is making the whole process easier. Again, more efficient to get into the state and a lot more enjoyable for you to do. Oh, and obviously I've talked about the cheat codes, so I don't want to forget to mention that the Solid Self-Concept course has now pivoted into the Cheat Code Academy because it just makes more sense to me to have that be ongoing support for the foundational stuff and then to make smaller courses than what the self-concept course was turning into, because I was trying to give examples for self-concept for every possible scenario and it's just was becoming a monster. So you have that foundational membership that you're able to cancel at any time, where you, the wait list covers all the things that you'll get on the membership, and then making smaller courses for the individual things that people tend to want to manifest the most, like obviously money, career, business, SP, love in general, because SP can be, it's just a specific person. It's not necessarily romantic. So I'm going to leave that there. If you're still watching this video after my tangents, then you must have gotten something positive out of that. So a way that you can really do me a solid with that being the case is to, like, share, comment, and subscribe. It helps push my videos out to more people so I can continue to help as many people as possible on a free platform. Obviously, if you do want or need any direct guidance with your individual circumstance, all of my details are in the description for coaching, email, and video call coaching, as well as freebies, links to my other free resources and platforms that I post on. Thank you for being here. As always, you're fucking legends. Don't you ever forget it. And until next time, have a good one. Oh, no. Sorry, my TV went on, went to go on standby and I had blue light on me and I was like, that's not okay. We're working with not the best quality here.